So good to have all of you here on this 3-day weekend. Hope you're enjoying the sweltering heat and all that with the rest of us. It's great to have you here where the air conditioner is working great, so enjoy all that. I'm Andy. Would love to meet you if I haven't met you, and would love to get to know you a little better if we have. And so introduce yourself afterwards. I'll be out there. Would love to talk to you. Today we want to celebrate a commodity of God that's a pretty big deal in His eyes, but a shrinking reality in our culture. And so I want us to consider that together over these next few moments. I remember a few years ago going to a graduation ceremony. It's a little different ceremony than any of the graduations I've ever been to. I've been to a lot of them over the years. And this one was a little bit different because there were several graduating students, who were going into the military after their graduation over those next few weeks. And so the school knew that, and so in response to that, they made the ceremony a little more patriotic, pointed that out. And so the ceremony, before things started, everybody's kind of milling around, and people are in their seats, they're talking to the people behind them and all of that. And the ceremony started simply by some of those graduating seniors who were going to go into the military walking out, carrying flags, and one of them had a snare drum playing it quietly. The PA didn't say, everybody get quiet, but everybody did. The PA didn't say, stand to your attention, but everybody did. And you saw this football arena, which had been so chaotic before, steep itself with honor. You saw the honor just working itself through the crowd. All the crowd rose in silence. The chatter stopped. The horseplay ceased. And in stillness, we stood as they made their way to the center field. It was a powerful moment. What you felt was honor. Honor for these young men's sacrifice, the service they were going to go into. Honor for the country and the flag that they were sacrificing for. For me specifically, I was standing a couple rows behind an older gentleman who took off his Vietnam vet hat as he kind of slowly stood to rise to attention. I felt honor for his service. This weekend is designed to be a weekend for honor. We take time as a culture to set this aside as honor. And yet it's a shrinking quality in our culture. These moments like that stand out more because there's fewer of them. They get our attention because it's not a day-to-day reality anymore. And I believe we should view this shrinking honor in our culture as a warning sign, a dashboard light to say, hey, something maybe not quite right spiritually among us because honor's kind of going away. The book of Romans chapter 1, Paul writes to the church to describe the spiritual downfall of their great culture. And the parallels are pretty well documented between them and us. He describes increased sexual perversion, lawlessness among them, suppression of truth, a nation turning away from the living God, becoming much more secular. All those things can be seen today in us. And there in the middle of that long, important narrative, you see this critical verse 21, says, even though they knew God, they did not honor Him as God or give thanks, but they became futile in their speculations, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Honor, especially towards God, is a central part of making a culture thrive because it's a big deal to God. God designed us that way. In God's economy, honor starts at the top with Him, and then it works its way through every other part of the institutions and relationships along the way. And when we see honor going away, as we do today, you don't have to be a sociologist to see the far-reaching implications in our world because of that. God says that honor is the standard for every relationship. It's the standard for culture, and it should be something we lift up high. Romans 12:10 says, be devoted to one another in love, honor one another above yourselves. Now, this is not a suppression deal where one side honors the other and then it's kind of in balance. The way that relationships work in God's economy is that both sides honor the other one above themselves, and because they're both looking up in honor at the other, the relationship thrives. So when you find that kind of honor flowing from husbands to wives and back to husbands, from parents to children and children back to parents, when you see citizens honoring their leaders, employers honor their employees, strangers honoring one another, when you see honor working its way through a relational reality that way, man, it thrives. When it's the standard. But without it, you see things begin to unravel. And I think you're seeing some of that now because God is the God of honor. In fact, when he's writing to the Corinthian church, God says this, when you eat or drink or do anything else, always do it to honor God. This should be the way that you do everything. Everything becomes spiritual now because it's not just doing physical things like eating or going to work or spending your time. You're doing it to honor God. Everything you do is to honor God because honor is a big deal to God. You honor God first and everything else falls in line. You take that away and everything begins to unravel. I saw an interview a few years ago with Duke coach Mike Krzyzewski. And it was fascinating to watch how he interacted. And they asked him specifically about his recruiting, because he's been a master recruiter for a lot of years. And he said, he's described how honor was such a big piece in this. He said when he brings a recruit in, this 5-star talent, 18-year-old kid who's got the world in front of him, all these people fighting for him, he said, I want to interview him, but I really want to interview his mother in the process. And the interviewer said, what are you talking about? He said, well, here's what happened. He said, in the middle of the weekend, I'll bring him in with his mom, his dad maybe too, but at least his mom. And he said, moms have a specific set of questions that recruits don't have. Recruits have certain things that are important. Moms have other things that are important, not necessarily the same list. And you can kind of imagine what those things might be. And he said, I want mom to feel real comfortable, because I want her to ask every one of her questions, even the ones that seem the most ridiculous to the student, because then I want to watch him. And he said, when mom feels comfortable and starts asking her questions, I stop watching her and I start watching him. Because I want to see, is he going to roll his eyes? Is he going to try to cut her off? Is he going to be embarrassed? Is he going to do any of those things? Because if he doesn't honor her, he'll never honor me, and I don't want him in my program. Now, to which I'm thinking, that's on national TV, so now the junior in high school is watching that going, all right, I'm going to honor mom for a few minutes and fake that out. But he sees that as a key part of his program, because honor is a linchpin for our culture. Whether it's in religious expression to God, or in relationships to one another, even in basketball or business, honor is a big deal, and it's going away. Honor is becoming countercultural. It's not the way we deal with each other. And I think we as the church need to bring it back. The key verse for me this morning is out of Romans chapter 13, where it says, give to everyone what you owe them. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. If honor, then honor. Now, let me ask you just a real important question. This is the kind of question you don't think about much, but look at that list. Oh, sorry, the list went away. Romans 13. Go ahead and put that back up. There. If you look at that list, do all those go together? Like, be honest. Do they all go together? Taxes and revenue goes together. That makes sense. Respect and honor goes together. That makes sense. But do you put those in the same list? I would not put those in the same list, which means I'm wrong, because the Bible did, so that's probably all goes together. But why does God put that together? I think he wants us to see the urgency of that. I mean, 2 of those go in a spreadsheet, right? 2 of those can be a line item that you talk to your accountant about. 2 of those are business. They're really important. The other 2 are sort of soft. They're sort of out here somewhere. But God puts them all in the same list, because he says, if you owe respect or taxes or honor, you better make that account right. You better pay that debt. This is something that has to happen. I mean, can you owe someone a debt of respect? Can there be an advance financial somewhere to give you honor to pay back the one that you didn't? How does that work exactly? And what does God say to do when we owe someone, when our account's in the negative? What's God say to do? Wait, next verse. Let no debt remain outstanding. Pay the debt. Except the continuing debt to love one another, and whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. I think God is placing them in the same level so that we see the level of urgency that he sees it in. You've got to make sure all your accounts are shored up. This is important. You can run a deficit of honor, and you shouldn't. You got to fix that. God goes all Dave Ramsey on us and says, you better fix that and bring that up to notch, because you got to pay the debt. I mean, it is a command. You look in the original language, it's a command. We're commanded to pay the debt of honor. Let no debt remain. If you owe a debt of honor, then you better pay it, because that's the way God sees it. Now, there's a lot of benefits from giving honor to someone. It improves the relationship, which is self-serving. It shows humility, which makes you look good. It builds the other person up in our lives, and it probably makes them do more of what you just honored them for. So even if you're not a good person, honor is a good way to serve yourself, to get a lot of things coming back the right direction. But it's bigger than that. I mean, how good does it feel when you're on the receiving end? Not like a thank you note where you gave a gift and you're expecting the thank you note, and you can tell this is one of 18 they wrote and it's the exact same, but they filled in the blank. Not one of those, but where someone out of the blue says something nice to you, or sends you a message, or says, when you do these things, I really appreciate that. Like how good does that feel when someone kind of goes out of their way to give honor to you? And you have that power. I have that power to give that to another person. There's lots of reasons to show honor, and yet probably every one of us have accounts in our life, relationships that are dipping into the negative on the honor department. And God says, pay the debt. If you owe it, pay it. Let no debt remain. We set aside this weekend every year in hopes of collectively shoring up our accounts, and somewhere along the line we've lost the sight of that as well. What would it look like if the church did this? not just like WellSpring, but like the church, if those who said, I believe in Jesus, Jesus is my leader, I'm going to be an honoring person, how would that change everything in our world? The interactions we have with each other, the way that media outlets report news, the way that we handle conversations about politics or division or struggle or things we disagree on. Like, how would that change everything if all of the Christians said, you know what, I'm going to be an honoring person? So why don't we do it? If there's self-serving reasons, if God commands it, if it'd be good for culture, why don't we do it? Why do any of us have accounts that are in the negative? And I would say all of us probably do. I think there's a lot of reasons. Pride's a reason, gets in the way sometimes. It's hard to lower your pride to say thanks to somebody. Hurt, that's a bigger reason. Somebody that you need to give honor to, but they've done things over the years that have just kind of clogged up the system. So even though you kind of feel like I should give them honor, I don't want to. You know, the thing with honor is we're called to show honor even to less than perfect people. Like God, when he was setting out standards for a nation, said you're to honor your parents, even though they're not perfect, even though they may have hurt you, even though they may do things that are really hard for you, you're to show them honor because of who they are. It's kind of unconditional. We're to honor our political leaders, even though they drive us crazy. Maybe especially when they drive us crazy. Even with the ones you disagree with. Like if you were to look at this list, my approach to political things is typically not best described as no insults, no fights, big-hearted and courteous. That's not typically how I would describe myself, and it's definitely not how I would describe our cultural discourse. And yet that's what God says to do to political leaders. It's easy to be honorable to people you agree with who are kind to you. It's awfully difficult to be honorable to those that you disagree with or who have hurt you. And yet that's the thing about honor. It's kind of called to be a little bit unconditional. We're to give honor to those who are deserving of honor, even when it doesn't feel like something we want to do. There are a lot of reasons we struggle with honor, but I think the biggest one is time. Like so many spiritual things for us, we're so fast-paced, we don't take time to do the things that we probably ought to do. A few months ago, I discovered a cool thing on Facebook. You guys may have all seen it a long time before I did, but it's a save feature. Have you seen the feature? Anybody seen the save feature? Not a one of you. I'm going to teach you a brand new thing. This is very exciting. Really, the message about honor, but this may be one of the best things you hear today. This is a really cool deal. So when you see a link, an article that you want to read, and you don't have time, you're in the middle of something, you can click on the little dots on the right and say, save that for later. And then you got a save folder, and you can just pull that back up later and not have to say, which friend said that, and search all through and all this. It's a great deal. Like you see an important bit of research, like which cheese best describes my personality, or something that you really need to give due attention to. I don't have time right now to meditate on that. Let me come back to that later. You can click save and save it till later. When you have a few minutes to look at it. But here's the weird thing. I've been doing this for months now, and what I've never seemed to realize is my save list keeps getting longer. I'm never going back and looking at any of those things. I'm just saving them for later when I've got time to get to them. I need to give some attention to that. I don't have time now. I'll do that later. And the list just keeps getting enormous. Do you ever feel like life does that to you? Like your emails constantly saying something else you ought to do, something else you ought to do, something else you ought to do. Emails from school talking about how to help your kids more, bills that come in, to-do lists, demands from work, things around the house, things out in your yard, events for sports teams or school groups or extracurricular activities. Everyone has something for me to do, and my ought-to-do list keeps getting bigger and bigger. Like one of my favorite email moments of the year happened this past week, happens every year, right when school gets out. I do a Google search on my email for everything that came from wcs.edu, and it all goes away, like in batch. It's so fantastic when it all just goes away. And then you come to church, and I pull out the Bible and say, you ought to do these things too, and just add to your ought-to-do list. We never seem to get to it. I think honor's that way a little bit. We've always teased my mom, as long as I can remember, she's had a subscription to People magazine. That really heavy, article that talks about these important things. Now, my mom's different than the rest of us. When I pick up a magazine, especially something kind of light fare like People, I'll flip through, look at the pictures, maybe read one article, look at the headlines, and 3 or 4 minutes later, I'm done. I move on to the next thing. My mom, my retired English teacher mother, reads every single word of every magazine that she owns, even People magazine. She reads all of it. I don't know if she reads all the long ads that describes all of the side effects, maybe. I don't know. But she reads every single word of every magazine, and she doesn't want to get ahead of herself. She likes doing things chronologically, so They just pile up beside her chair. It's a very exciting week this week for Mom. I think Nixon's getting ready to resign, and People Magazine there in her by her chair. It's very exciting. So we honor her for that. That's good. But do you ever feel that way? Like I'm just constantly getting further behind. I've got this large stack of things I need to get to, but I just keep getting further behind. Well, I think honor is that way a little bit. And there are people in our lives that we need to honor. We know we need to honor. And we'll get to that when we get to it, but not right now. Not right now. Do you have people that you owe a debt of honor? God says pay the debt. Pay it up. So I want to do more than just tell you to do it. I want to help you. James chapter 1 says, do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. So I want to give us a couple of minutes today to do what it says. I want to give you a moment to show some honor. So in just a moment, I'm going to ask you to give honor to two specific people in your life. And you can decide who they are, and I think God will prompt you who they are. But when I do that, I want to give you a couple things to consider. Maybe for you, the best way is to pull out your phone and send a text. And just say, you know what? You mean this to me, or you did that for me, and I want to say thank you. Or just send a quick text. You can do that right now. Or maybe you pull out your phone and get on social media and put something on their page or say something about them. No pastor in the history of church ever says get on Facebook during church. I'm asking you to do that now. I will never ask you to do it again, so take this chance to do that. Jump on there and pay the debt of honor. If texting and Facebook's not enough for you, I've got notes and pens for you. Pens in the back of your seat. The ushers will come in just a minute and bring note cards for you. I bought hundreds of them this week. Blank little thank you notes. Looks something like this. Just blank on the inside. You can take a minute and write a note saying, hey, I want to honor you. Thank you for what you mean to me in my life. And you can do that. May pull out your calendar out of your purse or out of your phone and block off 30 minutes or an hour in the next couple of days to show honor to somebody. Like put it on your calendar. You're going to do this. It'd be great, really, if coinciding with this message, we had like an extra day designed to give honor to people, a day when you don't have to go to work, a day when you can be off. We'd call it Honor Day or something. Memorial, something. I don't know. It probably wouldn't catch on. But if we had a day like that, you could do that sort of thing to pay the debt that you owe. Now, for some of you, for some of us, this is going to be easy. If somebody comes to mind, I want to honor them. That's great. For some of the people on your list that you need to honor, you know you need to honor them, but you don't want to. I mean, there's baggage there. They've said things, they've done things, and you know what you should do. You don't want to do it right now. But I think God may be nudging you to do that. So I want to have you show honor to two people. There's probably a lot more on your list, but I want to start with two. So first of all, take a couple of minutes, 2-3 minutes, and show honor to somebody easy in your life. Text, write a note, pray for someone in your life, write a card. Ushers will come forward, raise your hand. They'll give you a free card. We'd love to give you one of those for that. Take a couple minutes and show some honor. Go. may have to finish that one up a little bit later, but you got started. I want you to take a couple minutes now and show honor to someone that's hard. This is a relationship that may have some baggage in it. Somebody that you need to give honor to, but honestly, it's just there's a block there. Jesus tells us in Matthew chapter 5, if you're offering your gift at the altar, worshiping God, and there you remember your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them and come and offer your gift. It's clear in Scripture that our horizontal relationships, even difficult ones, impact our vertical connection to God. So for lots of us, somebody just popped in your head that you need to show honor to. There's somebody in your life that's deserving of that, something that's you should be doing positionally, but you don't want to. So take some time to give honor to them horizontally so that it opens up some things for you vertically. Maybe for some of you, just getting started, writing your name on the top of the card. I mean, that's all you can get done. You can finish it up later. But ushers, why don't you come forward so they can see and wave your hand if you need another card. Take a couple minutes and do that in just a moment. And a third direction this morning as well. In Luke chapter 17, Jesus tells a story about, Jesus interacts with 10 different men who come up to him. They were all lepers. They were hanging out together because of their sickness, separated from all their families. And they'd come before him saying, God, will you heal us? Will you cure us of this terrible disease? And Jesus says, go show yourself to the priests. On their way to go show themselves to the priests, their leprosy goes away. And they were completely restored and completely normal. And 9 of the 10 do what makes a lot of sense to all of us. They went to see their families. They took off running to celebrate, to party, to tell their families of this great news. But one of the 10 says, you know what, I got to go back and thank that guy who just healed me. And he turned around and he went back to Jesus and said, thank you for rescuing me. God said there's something about honor that does that. There's a component where God does these amazing things to us. And when we turn back around and say, God, thank you for doing that, there's something else that happens inside of us. It said that 10th man was healed, even probably a little more substantially. I want us to take a moment to honor our great God. He created us. He knows us. He loves us. He sent Jesus to live and to die, to rise again so that you and I could have a pathway to God, not only in heaven one day, but now. For some of you, this will represent giving honor to someone easy. You know you need to honor God. You want to honor God. If you get behind in your accounts just because you got busy, but you want to. But for some of us, this is going to represent something hard. There's some distance between you and God. Maybe you're not sure you believe in Him. Maybe there's some pain that you've gone through, and you're not sure why God would allow that. This will be hard for you. But I want to invite you to open yourself up to the idea that He's here, that He loves you, that He cares about you. And honoring Him is a great way to bring peace to your soul. I would repeat the command of Scripture to let no debt remain. Won't you stand with me? I'm going to pray for you. And then we'll have the band come up and lead us in a moment of honoring to God. God, we thank you so much for your love for us. You created us. You created the beautiful world we live in. You created everything. And then you gave us the freedom to make it a mess. The freedom to choose our own way. And we've run from you. And in spite of that, God, you've come for us. You sent Jesus to rescue us, to die for our sins. And And our accounts, every one of our accounts, starting with me, are probably in the negative with you in this department. You deserve far more honor than I give you. So God, we take a moment to say thanks, to credit you with so many good things in our life, to thank you for the freedom that you give, to allow us to run away and to apologize for those runnings. We want to honor you, God, for your greatness, for your goodness, for your love for us. Church, take just a moment and think of one or two things to specifically say thank you to God for all that he's given to you. Thank you, Lord, we pray in Jesus' name.